22 years ago, back in 2002, I was just about to graduate from high school and I was out looking for a job. I stopped by Best Buy and I remember picking up a box for a game called Morrowind. I stared at that box for a solid 3 minutes, read every word, looked at every picture, and obsessed over this game from a company that I had never heard of. The only problem was, well, I didn't own a computer, at least not yet. I finally managed to get some work, saved up enough money, and built my first PC, but by that time, enough time had passed that I mostly forgot about it, and I never felt the awe and wonder that game originally had inspired. By the time Elder Scrolls 4 came out, I knew it was something I was interested in, so I bought it. But being an impatient 22-year-old, I didn't really read the quest very well, and I didn't really understand what to do in the game, so I kinda stopped playing it after a couple of hours. Besides, by that point I was already elbows deep into World of Warcraft, and most of my time was spent raiding and farming gold. It wasn't until 2008 when Fallout 3 came out, a game that I wasn't even sure I would enjoy, that I got my first taste of a Bethesda style game, and well, let's just say I ended up calling into work. I obsessed over that game. I did every quest I could find, explored every decayed building, and probably put 200 hours into it. Same with Fallout New Vegas, and so when I saw Skyrim was coming out, I knew I had to give it a serious go. It did not disappoint. Although the game was still a bit clunky, just like Fallout, I found myself really pulled in by the story. I remember reading the lore books, trying to find every side quest, exploring every cave, ruin, delve, and town in the game. And although I never beat it at that time, mostly because something happened during the siege of Whiterun, and I couldn't get the siege to start, even after loading previous save states. I didn't really feel like starting all the way over, so I walked away from the game. For me, I was already looking forward to Fallout 4, which I was sure would be out in just a couple of years. But once it came out, that for me is when I felt like something was just off. Why wasn't I enjoying this game? I think it started with the bugs, which, let's be honest, had always been part of the charm of Bethesda games. Now felt like they were relying on the modding community to basically fix everything. The RPG elements that I love so much had basically been stripped off, and the choices which had felt plentiful and felt impactful in the previous games I played were now reduced to essentially yes, no, or not right now. Even the story felt poorly designed. Everything from becoming the General of the Minutemen 20 minutes into the game, something I felt like should have been reserved for after you'd actually accomplished things, to the storyline with the Institute that still irritates me to this day. The fact that the choices you made didn't seem to matter because Bethesda ran the choices they wanted you to make down your throat, no matter what choices you actually wanted to do. A perfect example of this would be in the Institute. If you refuse to attack the railroad, you're basically told, too bad, it's gonna happen anyways. And when you try to pull rank and say, oh yeah, well I'm the director here now, you're once again told, sorry, too bad, this is happening. I remember that making me so mad that I actually opened fire on everyone in the room and had to reload a previous save. Oh, and don't even get me started on the stupid choice to call Sean father. That still irritates me to this day, and I don't fully know why, but I think it's mostly because my brain gets confused and keeps making me think this is my father, not my son. Whose idea was that? The base building was an idea I was okay with, but mostly felt like extra work added to stretch the game out. It rarely worked correctly, seemed to offer really no benefits, and resulted in me constantly running over to help out these random settlements that were being attacked. In fact, it got so bad that I actually restarted the game and refused to get any settlements that weren't absolutely necessary on my second playthrough until I got about 2/3 of the way through the game. The Radiant quest made it so the game was essentially never ending, but again really added nothing substantial to the game besides busy work. So although I did beat the game, it didn't feel very satisfying. I felt like all that extra fluff could have been put into actual meaningful gameplay. I still remember an interview where Todd Howard was trying to describe how much he loved Peggle, a mobile game, and the feeling it gave him when he won a round, and how he wanted things like that in Fallout. Skyrim Special Edition was finally where I actually beat Skyrim. It was a pretty awesome feeling. I felt overall it was an amazing experience, but I still couldn't shake the feeling though that even though this was cool, I really just wanted Elder Scrolls 6 to come out instead. Then came Fallout 76, a game no one really asked for. Then there was Skyrim Legendary Edition, Anniversary Edition, and even Skyrim Samsung Smart Fridge Edition. Okay, maybe not the last one, but you get the point. I started noticing other players were chiming in with the same concerns I was having. All this extra energy was going into projects no one was really asking for. But finally in 2018, Elder Scrolls 6 was announced. But so was Starfield, and it was also announced that Starfield would come out first, and well, we kinda all know how that went. Not only was it one of the most buggy games they had ever released, the graphics were already somewhat outdated, and it just felt dead, empty. It felt almost like some indie games. You know the ones I'm talking about, where they get crowdfunded, get halfway done, run out of money, and then release the game anyways. Bethesda's continued to take shortcuts, and it's really showed. But it also showed they weren't listening to their fans. Todd Howard even recently stated a similar thing in an interview. I can't find it anywhere, so please forgive me if I butchered a little, but it was something along the lines of, you can't make every gamer happy, so we're kind of toning that noise out. Now, I do understand kind of what he's saying to an extent, because even if you consider an extremely good game, one like The Witcher 3, it still has around 5,000 negative reviews, despite 96% of people saying they had a great experience with it. The concern I have is the trend seems to be continuing. Fallout 3 got an 80 overall. New Vegas got a 96. Fallout 4 got an 83. Fallout 76 dropped to a 75. Skyrim got a 94. Skyrim Special Edition also got a 94. Anniversary Edition, however, dropped to a 50, and Starfield came in at a 59. So we can see the trend. It's not just me. The games really are getting worse. At least they're doing worse. And now with Microsoft holding the reins, I genuinely am worried about the future of this game. It seems like what's getting made are games that Todd wants to play, not games that are being made out of passion by a team that really loves working on them. Emil Pagliarulo even came out and said, and I'm paraphrasing here because it's a long rant, "You gamers have no idea how much work it actually takes to make a game. The fact that they actually work at all is a miracle. No one here at Bethesda is patting themselves on the back for how Starfield turned out," which kind of came out tone deaf. Here's the problem. If I go into a restaurant and ask for a grilled cheese sandwich and some tomato soup, and when it comes out the bread is completely burnt to a crisp and darker than Hillary Clinton's soul, I'm likely going to ask nicely for the waiter to send it back to the kitchen. And if they redo it and bring it out with no cheese, I probably will still be respectful, even though I might be a little irritated, but I'm definitely going to say, look, what's going on here? If the third time they bring out pork chops and a tomato in a bowl after I've already explained this twice, I'm likely going to refuse to pay, get up, and walk out without touching the food. That is kind of why people are getting so aggressive about this. They're just not listening. It's not the bugs. It's not the flaws, and I'm going to be honest, it's not even really about the graphics. It's the fact that gamers are specifically telling you, we don't want this, and it seems like your response is, well, that's too bad, you're gonna play it anyways. That is my biggest fear with Elder Scrolls 6. I am so fearful that we are going to get a game that is packed full of microtransactions, radiant quests, with poorly done base building systems that barely looks better than Fallout 4 despite 10 years passing, plays terrible, and has a boring main storyline. I already cringe to think that I might have to play another game where I have to hear the words, "Another settlement needs your help." 8 years. Likely 8 years will have passed by the time this game gets released. And I pray to God you guys come back to my channel in 2026 and tell me, nope, you were wrong, this game is great. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for the game, or do you share some of my concerns? Also, drop some of your favorite memories down in the comments. Was there ever a, wow, this game is great moment for you guys? Was Skyrim, Oblivion, or Morrowind your favorite game? Or maybe you're really old school and enjoyed Daggerfall or The Arena? I always love reading your guys' stories and hearing about some of your favorite memories in the Elder Scrolls. Thank you guys all for being here. I always appreciate your views. Have a great night.